So James Wan is brilliant. I'm just ready to say that. He's brilliant. Love him or hate him, for the past 2 decades, James Wan has crafted three of the biggest, most popular horror franchises in modern cinema. He's worn so many different hats, directing big budget action movies like Fast 7, to big budget comic book movies like Aquaman, to, of course, the three big horror franchises he's responsible for: Saw, Insidious, and The Conjuring. But then there's another James Wan. The James Wan that showed his hand a bit here and there in his other horror films, but one that's only ever really been on display in Dead Silence. The James Wan that embraces camp wholeheartedly and revels in it, who throws insane ideas at you that make you go, yeah, sure, okay, and just rolls with it and lets you just accept that that's the world you're in. If Dead Silence was the prototype, if that was him dipping his toe into the water of, like, campy horror, Malignant is him perfecting the art and swan diving into the deep end. This is a film that is, honest to God, so insane that I don't know how to talk about it, because it is so out there and I don't want to spoil a second of the ride for you. Malignant is directed by James Wan and written by him and his wife, Ingrid Bisu, who is also in this movie. It stars Annabelle Wallis as Madison, a young woman who starts experiencing terrifying visions of murders that are occurring elsewhere at the same time they're happening, and her journey to discover her connection to the mysterious killer calling himself Gabriel. And that's all I can say about the plot. That's all anyone can really say about the plot, because it is really hard to talk about this movie without giving anything away. There's a reason the trailers for this movie felt so bland and uninspired and derivative. And it's not because the movie is any of those things. It is 100% because WB did not know how to market this to an audience. Because this is not a film for people who are going to go in expecting to see more of the same James Wan fare. This is 100% a film for people who love the genre and are very, very, very deep in it. Malignant is Wan's self-proclaimed giallo-inspired film, something that borrows heavily from films in that style, while wholly, unapologetically doing its own thing. And from its first scene, it asks you to understand that. With hokey acting and melodramatic dialogue and vibes that feel straight out of a Universal monster movie, it's so insane within the first 2 minutes of runtime that you instantly know what kind of movie you're in for. It doesn't even really give you more than 5 minutes to breathe after that, ushering you into the plot pretty damn quickly with a brutal kill, and immediately showcasing that this is kind of different than anything Wan has ever done before. The jump scares are minimal. There are some here, but they're few and far between, and they're incredibly effective because of that. Wan actually proves that less can be more, and proves that he understands that by electing to scare you with really off-putting, weird sound design and some truly uncanny visuals to keep you on the edge of your seat instead of the usual bah. Much like other giallo films, half the fun here is in the spectacle, and there are some sequences in here that had my jaw on the floor. From really impressive overhead one-takes that map an entire chase scene through a house, to two of the coolest action set pieces I've ever seen in a horror film that I can't even talk about because they will spoil something. I'll say that there's a scene in the second act of this movie that is a chase through the city, and a scene in the third act of this movie that is a fight scene. And those two sequences, I said out loud, what the fuck, I love this. It's some of the best action I've ever seen directed in a horror film ever. And it's absolutely wonderful that James Wan used what he learned on the sets of bigger budget action movies to service this film. This weird, super out there, totally not for everybody film. The giallo influences that Wan was referencing are no joke, not just in the film's influences either. It goes beyond the fact that Gabriel is just another black glove killer with like a dagger that's killing beautiful women. It's the whole 9 yards. There is a cop story that is directly intertwined with the main story, kitschy dialogue, a ton of melodrama and acting that is very much like winking in the direction of the audience and asking you to laugh with it. Stark, beautiful red lighting that illuminates one of the bigger kill scenes in the movie. Even just the awkward way that the background characters act. There's a scene in a jail cell that I won't spoil the details of, but just the way that it's shot and a certain POV aspect of it, with all the extras kind of looking awkwardly at a character, felt straight out of an Argento film, and I loved it. But no slasher film is complete without its villain, and Gabriel is a menacing killer. From the physicality of the role lent to by contortionist Marina Mazepa, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, and of course Twisty Troy, to the mystery of his identity and the sinister, brutal nature of his kills, as well as the actual reveal of who and what he is, makes him about as memorable a villain as anyone else in Wan's filmography at this point. From The Nun to Mary Shaw to Billy the Puppet, both of them. There's so much I loved about this movie, to the point where it's hard to break it all down and even harder to do so without spoiling anything. But what I can talk about is how much I love the fact that this is so far off base from everything we've come to expect from James Wan at this point. This is not a slow burn haunted house movie. This is a fast-paced, in-your-face slasher action flick with some insane supernatural sci-fi leanings that are so out there they're pretty much impossible to predict until the film is throwing them in your face and you're just forced to accept it. This is a movie that unapologetically asks you to accept a world where women can have psychic links with killers with no real fanfare or amount of time to prep you for it. It just happens, you're there, deal with it. It's bonkers, and you're just in for the ride. And honestly, I want more horror movies to do this. I want more camp in horror movies. It's a lost art form. Not every horror movie has to be so self-serious and so grounded in reality. We can have fun with horror movies, guys. It's allowed. Malignant is the kind of movie that I've been longing for the entirety of the past decade. It's a film that is fun and gruesome and intense, but also does not take itself seriously and just asks the audience to have fun with it and be along for the ride. I love that. I want more of that in horror. Please. To that effect, I can't really call it scary, but it's not supposed to be. It's gory, it's gross, it's pretty fucking dark in its subject matter, but it handles all of that with a really good understanding of camp, and it's unafraid to be unabashedly silly and unflinchingly bonkers and really fucking cool. I say that with emphasis because this movie is insane. I can't stress that enough. It is insane that WB greenlit this, although it's not surprising considering Wan made them $1 billion with Aquaman. Either way, I'm glad they did because Malignant is something that genuinely does change the game. It reminds me of when Insidious came out and people had never really seen anything done like that before with a haunted house movie, and it's clear we have something special here. I hope that this opens the door for Hollywood to allow for more insane, over-the-top ideas in horror. I really do, because I loved this. This really blew me the hell away, and I think it might be James Wan's best film to date. It's certainly his most wholly realized vision. Is it bad? Definitely not. Is it good? I don't know. But it is so fucking insane that it's instantly memorable, and for that, I would say it's worth several watches. I don't doubt there are going to be people who hate this movie, especially anyone who doesn't understand camp or anyone who instantly equates James Wan's name with spooky jump scares. I won't tell you what you should expect from this movie, but it's not that, and it's not whatever the trailer is setting you up for. The journey this movie takes you on is well worth the price of admission, and if you are a hardcore genre fan, especially somebody who appreciates giallo filmmaking, you will love this. It pays homage to that subgenre in a very loving way while doing its own insane, inventive, wholly unpredictable thing. And while what it's doing might be polarizing for me, I loved every second of it. Malignant is currently streaming on HBO Max or in theaters. You're responsible for yourself. You decide what you'd rather do. Either way, see this movie. It is genuinely fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there, like, comment, subscribe. You could be like any of these cool people right here and subscribe to my Patreon. Halloween time is coming, so movie watches are coming. Oh my god, why is the street so loud today? If you want to support this channel, help us grow, make new quality content for you all to enjoy, I would really appreciate it. I really want to do some cool stuff this October. I really have been missing the chance to get into the spirit. Now is as good a time as any. Check out Malignant, guys. It's really cool, and I'll see you soon.